In the grand saga of naval history, some ships are remembered for their power, others for their speed, and some for a single defining battle. But very few vessels manage to carve out a legend so profound, so utterly stubborn, that they become more than just steel and steam. They become symbols. This is the story of one such ship. A warship that began its life as a revolution in design, was baptized in the fires of betrayal, rose from a watery grave to seek vengeance across the globe, and ended its career by staring down the very atom itself. This is the story of the battleship that simply refused to die. This is the story of the USS Nevada. Our story begins not on the waves, but on the drawing boards of the early 20th century. The world's great navies were locked in a frantic arms race, a relentless pursuit of bigger guns, thicker armor, and greater speed. Every new battleship class was an attempt to render all previous ships obsolete. In the middle of this technological storm, American naval architects were wrestling with a fundamental problem. As guns got bigger, they could punch through armor from farther away. The logical response was to make the armor thicker, but adding tons of steel slowed a ship down and made it a bigger, thirstier vessel. You couldn't have everything, or could you? The designers of the Nevada class decided to gamble on a radical new philosophy. It was called all or nothing. The concept was brutally simple. Instead of spreading armor thinly across the whole ship, a design that left it vulnerable everywhere to high-caliber shells, they would concentrate an immense amount of protection around the ship's most critical areas. The engines, the boilers, the steering gear, and the massive gun turrets with their explosive magazines. These were the heart and mind of the battleship. So they enclosed them in a heavily armored citadel, a veritable fortress of steel. The rest of the ship, the bow, the stern, the crew quarters, and the superstructure, received almost no armor at all. The theory was that a shell hitting these unimportant areas would pass straight through without detonating, or cause localized damage that wouldn't cripple the ship's ability to fight. It was a bold, all-in bet, and the USS Nevada, designated BB-36, would be its first true test. When she was launched in 1914, she wasn't just another dreadnought. She was the future of battleship design, a principle that would dominate naval architecture for the next 30 years. Nevada's early career was relatively quiet. Commissioned in 1916, she arrived too late to see major action in World War I. Her primary duty was serving with the British Grand Fleet in the Atlantic, escorting vital convoys from the safety of Bantry Bay, Ireland. It was important, necessary work, but not the stuff of legends. Throughout the interwar years, she served as a proud symbol of American sea power, participating in fleet exercises and goodwill tours. But as technology marched on, the revolutionary of 1916 was becoming dated. Between 1927 and 1930, Nevada underwent a massive modernization. Her old cage masts were replaced with sturdy tripod masts. She received new, more efficient turbines, and her anti-aircraft defenses were significantly upgraded. She emerged from the Norfolk Navy Yard a renewed and more formidable warship, ready for whatever the turbulent decade ahead might bring. By 1941, she was part of the Pacific Fleet, based in a tranquil, sun-drenched Hawaiian harbor called Pearl. The morning of December 7, 1941, dawned warm and clear. The USS Nevada was moored alone at the northern end of Battleship Row, not tethered to another vessel like the other battleships. This small detail, this accident of placement, would prove to be the most important factor in the day's events. Just ahead of her lay the USS Arizona. At 7:55 a.m., the world shattered. The first wave of Japanese planes screamed out of the sky. Nevada's position at the end of the line meant she was a clear target. As her gunners scrambled to their stations, a single Type 91 aerial torpedo slammed into her port side. The impact tore a gaping hole, 45 feet by 30 feet, about 14 by 9 meters, in her hull. Water flooded into her lower decks. She immediately began to list to port. Quick-thinking damage control teams, drilling for just such a scenario, counter-flooded compartments on the starboard side, painstakingly bringing the ship back to an even keel. Then came the bombs. Multiple bombs struck her bow and superstructure, igniting fierce gasoline fires. The heat was so intense it melted the linoleum on the decks below. Moored there, taking blow after blow, Nevada was a sitting duck. But aboard the wounded giant, a decision of incredible audacity was being made. With her senior officers ashore, the ship was under the command of a junior officer, Lieutenant Commander Francis Thomas. As the ship's engineering officer reported that he could get steam up, Thomas gave the order, "Get underway." No battleship had ever done this under fire. At 8:40 a.m., as the second wave of Japanese planes arrived, the impossible happened. The USS Nevada, burning and bleeding, severed her lines and began to move. She was the only battleship in the harbor to get underway. As she slowly steamed down the channel, she became a symbol of defiance for every sailor, soldier, and civilian watching in horror. But her escape also made her the single most important target for every Japanese pilot in the sky. They saw the escaping battleship not just as a prize, but as a threat. If she sank in the narrow channel, she would bottle up the entire Pacific fleet in the harbor for months. The dive bombers descended on her like hornets. They swarmed the Nevada, desperate to finish her off. Bomb after bomb rained down, at least 6 direct hits and numerous near misses. One bomb blew a massive hole in her forecastle. Fires raged out of control. Her anti-aircraft guns, many of them now warped by the heat, continued to fire back with stubborn fury. It was a heroic but doomed effort. The ship was too heavily damaged to make it to the open sea. With the channel entrance in sight, her acting captain, realizing the catastrophic consequences of sinking in the deep waterway, made another crucial decision. He ordered the ship to be intentionally run aground. With her bow pointed towards Hospital Point, the USS Nevada nudged her way into the muddy shallows and settled. She was battered, burning, and half sunk, but she had not blocked the channel. Her fight had saved the harbor from being completely sealed. In the attack, she had suffered over 60 killed and more than 100 wounded. But her spirit and her all-or-nothing armored citadel had held. The ship that wouldn't die had survived her first ordeal. For most ships, this would have been the end. But for Nevada, it was just an intermission. The salvage operation was a monumental feat of engineering. The massive hole from the torpedo was sealed with a giant patch. Her flooded compartments were pumped out, and over the course of 2 months, she was painstakingly refloated. In April 1942, under her own power, she steamed from Pearl Harbor to the Puget Sound Navy Yard in Washington. What awaited her was not just a repair job, but a total rebirth. For over a year, workers swarmed over her. They stripped away her old superstructure, her tripod masts, and her 1920s-era guns. They replaced them with a modern, streamlined superstructure, a powerful new dual-purpose secondary battery of 16 5-inch guns and enclosed mounts, and a dizzying array of 40mm and 20mm anti-aircraft cannons. Hay, designed for a different era of war, was now bristling with weapons tailored for the new reality of air power. When she emerged in late 1943, she was, in essence, a new battleship, ready for vengeance. Her first assignment was far from the Pacific theater of her last battle. She was sent north to the frigid waters of Alaska to support the recapture of Attu in the Aleutian Islands campaign. It was here she first tested her new capabilities, her massive 14-inch guns pounding Japanese positions with thunderous accuracy. But her true test of fire would come in the Atlantic. In the spring of 1944, Nevada steamed for Great Britain to join the largest amphibious invasion force ever assembled. She was to be a key player in Operation Overlord, the D-Day landings at Normandy. On the morning of June 6, 1944, the USS Nevada was in position off Utah Beach. As one of the most experienced warships present, she served as a flagship for the bombardment group. For days, her guns roared, delivering a relentless storm of steel onto German fortifications. The accuracy of her fire was legendary. From her position miles offshore, her gunners, guided by spotter planes, engaged targets deep inland. They engaged in duels with German coastal batteries, shrugging off near misses and methodically silencing the enemy guns. Her most famous contribution was against the formidable Azoville battery, a heavily fortified German position that was wreaking havoc on the troops ashore. For hours, Nevada hammered the concrete casemates until the battery was neutralized. For her actions at Normandy, she was hailed as one of the most effective fire support ships of the invasion. A few months later, she was doing it all again, this time off the coast of southern France, for Operation Dragoon. Pounding coastal defenses around Toulon, the ship that had been left for dead at Pearl Harbor was now helping to liberate a continent. With Europe on the path to freedom, Nevada was needed back in the theater where her war had begun. She sailed through the Panama Canal and rejoined the Pacific Fleet for the final, brutal island-hopping campaign against Japan. In February 1945, she was off the black volcanic shores of Iwo Jima. For 7 days before the Marines landed, Nevada's guns systematically dismantled the island's defenses, working over caves, bunkers, and gun emplacements. She stayed on station, providing on-call fire support for the grunts on the ground in one of the bloodiest battles of the war. Just a month later, she was at Okinawa, the last major battle of World War II. The fighting here was even more intense. The Japanese unleashed the full fury of the kamikaze. On March 27th, a suicide plane slammed into Nevada's main deck, near turret number 3. The crash and explosion killed 11 sailors and wounded 49. It destroyed 2 of her 20mm guns and a 5-inch gun mount. But it failed to put her out of action. Her damage control teams, masters of their craft, quickly contained the fires. The battleship, scarred but unbowed, remained on the firing line, her guns continuing to support the troops for nearly 2 months. When the war ended, the USS Nevada was one of the most decorated and battle-hardened ships in the entire United States Navy. She had earned 7 battle stars for her service. But she was also old. The era of the battleship was over, eclipsed by the aircraft carrier and the dawn of a new, more terrifying weapon. While younger ships were mothballed, the Navy had a special fate in mind for the old warrior. She was too iconic, too tough to simply be scrapped. She would be given a warrior's end. Nevada was selected to be a primary target ship for Operation Crossroads, the post-war atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll in the Pacific. In the summer of 1946, the veteran battleship was painted a brilliant, garish orange. She was anchored at the center of a ghost fleet of captured and surplus warships. For the first test, codenamed Able, an atomic bomb was to be dropped from a B-29 bomber, with the orange Nevada as the precise aiming point. On July 1st, the bomb fell. But the bombardier was off target, missing by over 1,900 feet, about 600 meters. The atomic fireball erupted away from Nevada, and while she was rocked by the blast wave and seared by the heat, she remained afloat. The ship that had survived Pearl Harbor had now survived a direct atomic attack. 3 weeks later came Test Baker. This time, a bomb was detonated 90 feet, 27 meters, beneath the surface of the lagoon. Nevada was farther from the epicenter this time, but the underwater blast was a different kind of monster. It threw a colossal column of radioactive water and seabed into the air, which then rained down upon the target fleet. The force of the explosion hammered Nevada's hull, but her tough construction held. She was now battered, scorched, and dangerously radioactive, but she was still floating. The atom bomb itself could not sink her. The USS Nevada was now a ghost ship in the truest sense. Too contaminated to be decontaminated, she was formally decommissioned in August 1946. For 2 years, she sat, a radioactive relic of a bygone era. In 1948, the Navy decided it was time for her final salute. She was towed out to sea off the coast of Hawaii for one last duty, to be a target for naval gunfire and aerial torpedoes. The new Navy would test its latest weapons against the toughest ship they had. For 4 days, the cruiser USS Iowa and other ships pounded her with shells. She was hit by experimental rockets and torpedoes. Yet she stubbornly stayed afloat, absorbing a level of punishment that would have obliterated any other vessel. She was a testament to the all-or-nothing principle that had defined her. Finally, on July 31, 1948, after being hit by a final aerial torpedo, the old warrior gave up the fight. She listed over and slipped beneath the waves, coming to rest 3 miles, almost 5 kilometers, beneath the surface of the Pacific. The story of the USS Nevada is more than just the biography of a ship. It's a story of resilience, of a refusal to quit in the face of impossible odds. From the chaos of Pearl Harbor, she emerged as a symbol of American defiance. She was sunk, reborn, and sent back to exact a terrible price on her nation's enemies. She fought on the beaches of Normandy, on the black sands of Iwo Jima, and in the hell of Okinawa. And at the end of it all, when faced with the ultimate power of the atomic age, she proved almost unkillable. A ship so tough, so stubborn, so utterly indomitable, that she earned a permanent place in the pantheon of naval legends. She was, and always will be, the ship that would not die. We've journeyed through the fire and fury of the USS Nevada's incredible career, but every warship, every plane, and every tank has a story waiting to be told. The annals of military history are filled with tales of heroism, innovation, and unbelievable endurance. So we want to hear from you. What piece of military history, legendary machine, or untold story should we investigate next? Drop your mission briefing in the comments below. Your idea might just become our next deep dive into the fascinating world of military legends. And if you enjoyed uncovering the story of this unsinkable warrior, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hitting that button ensures you won't miss our next expedition into the echoes of history.